Hey everyone, today we're going to dive into a really fascinating perspective on Jesus, or Isa, as you'll hear in Arabic, that comes from an ancient text, the Qur'an. We're going to look at a few specific verses in its third chapter, Surah Aal-e-Imran, to see exactly what they have to say.
So, the big question is, what does this text actually say about Jesus? To figure that out, we're going to unpack these verses piece by piece and take a close look at the story, the theology, and the core claims that are being made. All right, so the passage kicks off in a pretty unique way. It's not a story about Jesus, but a direct address from God to Jesus. The whole thing is framed as a divine promise, laying out a very specific plan just for him. And right away, the first words are super personal. This isn't someone telling a story about God. It's presented as God speaking directly to Jesus. And right here in this opening line, we get this four-part promise that's really the heart of the verse. Let's break that down. Okay, so this promise has four parts to it, and they unfold one after the other. It starts with God saying, I will take you back, and then raise you to myself, which kind of suggests this act of divine protection and ascension. Then it continues, promising to purify him from the disbelievers. And finally, the promise actually goes beyond just Jesus himself, vowing to elevate his followers above those who disbelieved, right up until the day of resurrection. So you see, it's this whole package deal: protection, elevation, and a lasting legacy. So, after that really personal promise to Jesus, the text zooms out a bit. It starts talking about everybody else. And it draws this really sharp line in the sand, laying out two totally different paths and two very, very different fates, all based on belief. For that first group, the ones described as those who disbelieved, the text spells out a pretty severe consequence. And what's really important to notice here is the scope of it. The punishment isn't just something for the afterlife. It's in this world, too. And it closes by saying they will have no one to help them. Then you get the complete opposite. For those who believed and did righteous deeds, the promise is the exact reverse. Their rewards will be given in full. The verse then finishes with this concluding thought: Allah does not like wrongdoers. So here it is, laid out side by side. You've got these two paths clear as day. On one side, you have a severe punishment that spans both this life and the next. And on the other, rewards given in full for having faith and backing it up with good actions. The text really presents this as a stark choice with some very definitive outcomes. All right, now the text makes a really interesting pivot. It takes on one of the central theological questions about Jesus, his origins and his nature. But to explain it, it doesn't get into complex doctrine. Instead, it uses a simple but really powerful analogy. And there it is, stated just as plainly as that. To understand the Quran's view of how Jesus was created, the text tells us to look at how Adam was created. So that leads to the next logical question, right? How was Adam created, according to this text? Well, the verse itself gives us the answer. Adam was created from dust, and then there was a divine command, be, and he was. The whole point here is that he was created without any human parents at all. So here's the core logic of the whole analogy. If God can create Adam from just dust, with no mother or father, then creating Jesus from a mother but without a father is presented as being totally within that same divine power. Basically, the argument is that the miracle of Adam's creation sets a precedent for the miracle of Jesus' birth. So after laying out this big analogy, the passage starts to wrap up. And it doesn't do it with another story, but with this really definitive statement about the information we've just been given. It's framed as the absolute, undeniable truth. This is pretty interesting. The text actually refers to itself at this point. It calls everything we've just heard verses and the wise remembrance. In other words, it's basically saying, hey, what you just read, this isn't just some story or an opinion. This is a direct, divine, and purposeful message. And then the whole thing ends with this powerful, totally unambiguous statement. It declares that what was just presented is the truth from your Lord, and then follows that up with a direct piece of advice. Don't be one of the doubters. It's like the final authoritative stamp on the entire explanation. So, we've walked through a divine promise, a story of two different fates, and this powerful analogy comparing Jesus to Adam. And all of that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. How does this perspective, from a text that's over 1,400 years old, interact with all the diverse beliefs people hold about Jesus today? What might it challenge, and what might it affirm? It's definitely a profound question to consider.